Today is Friday, December 23rd. We're talking about the dramatic winter storms impacting most Americans today and the chaos they're causing for holiday travel and gift deliveries. Also, from healthcare to disaster assistance, what's in the major government spending bill that passed the Senate this week. Plus, what TikTok says about its own employees misusing their power to get their hands on user data. Why football fans might want to get a YouTube TV subscription. And when and how Netflix is expected to finally crack down on password sharing. Those stories and more in today's episode. Welcome to The Newsworthy. All the day's news in around 10 minutes. Fast, fair, fun, and on the go. I'm Erica Mandy. Thanks so much for being here. You ready? Let's do this. Nearly every state in the country is now dealing with what's become a historic winter storm on a day when millions of Americans are trying to travel for the holidays. Wind chill alerts are now in effect from the Canadian border to the Mexican border and from Washington state to Florida. The National Weather Service says the life-threatening wind chills that have been brutal in the Great Plains are now going to reach the eastern half of the country today. A major snowstorm is also shaping up for today, especially near the Great Lakes. We're talking parts of Wisconsin, Illinois, Michigan, Indiana, Ohio, Pennsylvania, and New York. In fact, the Buffalo, New York area is expected to get up to 3 feet of snow and 70-mile-an-hour winds. Much of New England is also expected to see fierce winds, including the Boston area. All the while, today is expected to be the busiest travel day before Christmas, made worse by the fact that many people who wanted to travel yesterday had to reschedule, too. Thousands of flights were canceled yesterday and thousands more today, while many more are delayed. There have also been disruptions to bus and Amtrak train service, and officials are urging extreme caution for anyone who plans on driving themselves to their holiday destinations. Meteorologists say people who live in the plains, Midwest, and East could keep getting quick bursts of snow, impacting visibility and making roads slippery. Everywhere else with below freezing temperatures could see slick spots anywhere that was once wet. Later in the show, we'll let you know what all of this could mean for delivery drivers and your holiday packages. The U.S. Senate approved a bill to fund the government through most of next year in an effort to avoid a shutdown that was set to start today. This bill is worth roughly $1.7 trillion. That means more spending for the Defense Department and nearly $45 billion in emergency assistance to Ukraine. It also spends more on domestic priorities like healthcare and education. And there's a lot to it. This thing is more than 4,000 pages long. Just a few examples of what's included. If it becomes law, it would expand some Medicaid benefits, add funding for children's mental health and substance abuse, increase assistance for people affected by recent natural disasters, and ban TikTok on government devices. Lawmakers also added some protections for pregnant and nursing women in the workplace, like one that says employers have to give workers time to breastfeed. Some Republicans were against this deal since they say the U.S. needs to be making spending cuts instead. Others wanted to add immigration policy to the package as well, but that didn't happen. It easily passed the Senate anyway. The House still needs to approve the bill and President Biden still needs to sign off, but both are expected to happen today. It is the final word from the January 6th committee after 18 months of investigating. The House panel put out an 800-page final report that centers on former President Trump and what lawmakers say was his multi-part plan to overturn the 2020 presidential election. Basically, it was an expanded version of the lawmakers' hearings from over the summer. And it included recommendations meant to prevent anything like the Capitol riot from happening again. For starters, it says Congress should work to keep former President Trump and others from ever holding office again. It also says the Electoral Count Act needs to be updated so the vice president has no power to change the presidential vote. It calls on federal agencies to do more to combat the threat from extremist groups and review how they share intelligence. And a lot more. Former President Trump responded right away to say the report is the product of a partisan witch hunt. Then Trump said the real reason for the protest was election fraud, even though there is no evidence of widespread fraud that would have changed the results of the election. Also, earlier this week, a handful of Republican lawmakers put out a different report blaming top Democrats and law enforcement leaders for allowing the riot to get out of hand. For now, the January 6th committee's work is done, but the panel is sharing all of its evidence with the Department of Justice, which is doing a separate investigation. At this point, it's not clear what impact that will or won't have on the DOJ's possible case. A lot of Americans moved around in 2022, but there's nowhere people flock to more than the Sunshine State. The U.S. Census Bureau says Florida is now the fastest growing state in the country. This is the first time Florida has claimed the top spot in more than 60 years. Florida's population has actually grown every year since 1946. So now it has 22 times the population it did back then. And it's the third most populous state in the country behind California and Texas. Of course, Florida is not the only state seeing increases now. Overall, the U.S. population is ticking back up after hitting historic lows during the peak of the pandemic. And the Census Bureau says the biggest driver of growth in 2022 was immigration. All right, we have more news still coming up. But first, this podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp. So I realized over the last year that parenting, unfortunately, does not come with a user manual. Even though as a journalist, I tend to do a lot of research, it frankly stresses me out that there is so much conflicting information for how to go about this very important job of parenting. Well, therapists are trained to help us navigate all of these big life transitions and new challenges in life. Therapy has helped me better cope with the stress and newness of it all, and to trust my own instincts and capabilities more. As the world's largest therapy service, BetterHelp has matched 3 million people with professionally licensed and vetted therapists available 100% online. Plus, it's affordable. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to match with a therapist. If things aren't clicking, you can easily switch to a new therapist anytime. It couldn't be simpler. No waiting rooms, no traffic, no endless searching for the right therapist. Learn more and save 10% off your first month at betterhelp.com/newsworthy. That's betterhelp, HELP.com/newsworthy. So that brutal winter storm we told you about could put some last-minute Christmas gifts in jeopardy. Both FedEx and UPS put out warnings that their deliveries could be delayed. The problem is they both have hubs in the Midwest where the weather is especially treacherous. So both air and ground deliveries are being impacted. Amazon is also shutting down a few Midwest facilities, so you may want to brace for delays there too. That said, the U.S. Postal Service says most of its deliveries are unaffected. It says all priority mail packages that were in the mail by Monday should be okay. If you still need to send something that you want to get to its destination by Christmas, you'll have to go to the post office today and choose the express option. By the way, experts who track the shipping industry say this week, FedEx, UPS, USPS, and others have been shipping, on average, a combined 100 million packages a day. TikTok's parent company is now admitting that employees inappropriately access data from some TikTok users, including at least 2 U.S. journalists. TikTok is owned and operated by the Chinese company ByteDance. And earlier this year, the company denied accusations of targeting American journalists. But now, after an internal investigation, it came out that employees misused their authority to track the reporters, trying to identify how confidential company information was leaked. In that hunt, the employees reportedly gained access to IP addresses, location data, and even a handful of people connected to those journalists, and they did it through the users' TikTok accounts. ByteDance says the employees never actually found out how the info was leaked, and that all the people allegedly involved in this were fired. The CEO of TikTok's parent company added, quote, "The public trust that we have spent huge efforts building is going to be significantly undermined by the misconduct of a few individuals." There will soon be a new place to catch Sunday night football games, and that place is YouTube. The online video platform just scored exclusive rights to NFL Sunday Ticket. Up until now, the football broadcast package showing customers out-of-market games was only available on DirecTV. But starting next season, it will be switching over to Google's YouTube. Not the free version, though. You'll be able to watch NFL Sunday Ticket either as an add-on for YouTube TV or as a selection for YouTube's new primetime channels. YouTube hasn't said yet what it'll cost next year, but the company will spend a lot to get the rights. Reports say YouTube will pay $2 billion per season in a 7-year agreement. It seems streaming giant Netflix is finally ready to crack down on password sharing, something it's been warning for years now. A new report from the Wall Street Journal says Netflix will add fees for American users early in the new year. The company already tested this out in countries like Argentina and Guatemala. There, people have been paying about $3 a month extra if they want their accounts to be available in other households. And every time you try to log in from somewhere else, you're asked to enter a verification code until the account is upgraded. So it could be that same model coming to the U.S. If everyone does end up having to pay an extra $3, it will really add up for Netflix, since the company says 100 million people now watch using passwords they've borrowed from friends or family members. All of that said, Netflix seems to be trying to make it a little more worth it for customers to spend more or open new accounts by investing in new production. New Jersey state officials just approved plans for Netflix to turn a former Army base into a state-of-the-art production studio. It'll be one of the largest fully integrated production facilities in the world, complete with 12 sound stages and plenty of production support. It will all cost Netflix more than $900 million. Already, the company has studios in New York, Georgia, California, New Mexico, British Columbia, and Toronto. Well, that's it for the main news today, so now it's time for Feel Good Friday, when we bring you one extra feel-good or positive news story before the weekend. But first, a quick break for our sponsor. If you're into scary movies, you might also be into knowing more about the real-life events that are behind some of them, like the horror movie Scream. Yeah, that was inspired by the real crimes of the Gainesville Ripper. The Moms and Murder podcast talked about this and other scary movies in a recent episode, although they also bring a compassionate take to some of the lesser-known stories and help to share information about unsolved cases. Moms and Murder is a true crime podcast by two quick-witted friends and moms who have been behind the mic for over 5 years, and in that time, the show has gotten over 30 million downloads and counting. Be advised, though, that Moms and Murder is undergoing a name change, so ring in the new year with the new title, Moms and Mysteries, highlighting a real crime every Tuesday. Subscribe to Moms and Murder. Simply search their name on whatever app you're listening on right now. Just open your podcast app of choice, type in Moms and Murders, then hit subscribe. That's Moms and Murders, soon to be Moms and Mysteries, anywhere you listen to podcasts. Now back to Feel Good Friday. A police officer in Cleveland with some impressive dance moves is getting people to smile and dance outside a local hospital. Cleveland Clinic Police Corporal Eric Hudson has gone viral for the fun he's bringing to directing traffic with a portable music speaker, positive vibes, and fancy footwork. One of the Newsworthy's listeners actually sent us this story because our listener said Hudson is spreading cheer among pediatric doctors, nurses, and other staff who are burnt out with the crazy number of RSV cases and other viruses this time of year. And that, quote, he's ready to give anyone the energy boost we need to get ready for a long day of caring for our sickest children. In the 18 years Hudson has been working at the Cleveland Hospital, he says he's seen the importance of bringing happiness to the strangers he meets every day. Occasionally, he's even a shoulder to cry on. Hudson knows he could just do this job without all the flair, finesse, and energy, but as long as people keep loving it, he's vowed to keep on doing it. All right, thank you so much for joining us today. We will be back tomorrow with our special edition episode all about some of the most popular good news of 2022. But then we will not have a new episode on Monday, so our team can have some time off for the holidays. But be sure to join us again on Tuesday for your next news roundup. And by the way, if you're looking for a last-minute gift for a fellow Newsworthy listener, you can easily gift an insider membership for ad-free versions of the show and other benefits. Simply go to thenewsworthy.com/insider and click Gift Subscription near the top. Okay, thank you again for listening. Have a great long weekend and happy holidays.